Rice is a mainstay of the Guyanese economy, and government is working hard to alleviate many of the challenges facing the industry. This was explained to rice farmers and producers when the president and a team of agricultural officials met with stakeholders on July 12th. With market for some 200,000 tons of rice available in Venezuela and local production steadily increasing, success in the sector will bring its own unique set of problems, the president explained.
We have to begin to think about probably selling on the futures market. Some of these are, of course, complicated and specialized area where we probably need to have consultants to help us. But it's actually to try to create a floor so that our industry, our farmers, all those involved in the industry it will make economic sense for them to keep producing rice, to try to create a minimum floor and then also to deal with it from there. Of course, that itself has its dangers, and that's why we have to be very careful with it. I remember I used to be a director on OMI's board, and they were selling forward and making a lot of money by selling in the future, because when the price sometimes come down for gold, then they still have a guaranteed price that is probably higher than that. And that helped in many, many ways. But sometimes it could go wrong. And it went wrong for OMI. That is why Cambiar, which was a parent company of OMI, was eventually liquidated, because they had established a price where they would lose money, but the price of gold shot up so high at one stage that in actual fact they were losing money, and the shareholders were very, very annoyed, and the company went into liquidation. But we have to look at that. We probably have to be sensible. If we use that, if we find that that is a mechanism that can be used, then we have to be sensible of how we use it, and probably don't hedge all our bets in that regard.
The issue of concessions was also addressed by President Ramattar.
We give concessions to all the productive sector in our economy has concessions from the government. Sugar, bauxite, gold, and rice. Rice, for instance, don't pay VAT on any of the inputs, as far as I'm aware. I know that GAISUCA is working on a new form of fertilizer that can probably help rice farmers in the near future. They're working right now they're in an experimental process for this country. It's not a new technology. It's a technology that has been used in many other sugar producing and rice producing areas. And that is to provide liquid fertilizer that is much, much cheaper than the kind of fertilizer that we have.
The fact that the sector is driven by external market forces must also be understood, he added.
Even though the crop that we have is big in our standards, it is still small in international standard, and we do not determine international price. We are more price takers in that regard. And therefore, if we don't have the total control of that process, then it seems to me that we have to look very much of how we can control the costs, how we can work to try to control costs in many ways. I think the Commonwealth has also expressed to you how much money we're investing in the industry, into the D&I, the billions of dollars that we have been investing in D&I, and what we're doing right here now, the new pumps that we are putting down, and the moving in more mobile pumps into the area to help.
The importance of the social sector and the need to develop the quality of life for all Guyanese is one which government recognizes as essential in today's rapidly changing world. This was explained to rice producers and other stakeholders in Essequibo during a meeting with President Ramattar.
We use that as a form of redistributing income in our country. That is why we spend so much money on education, because we believe it is vital. Education is vital. It's become extremely important for social and economic development. If you look at countries that are rich and look at countries that are poor, the experience you will see is that those countries that have developed the most are the countries that invested most in their people. And that is what we're doing, developing the human capital. 20 years ago, you never heard about a student from Essequibo topping the country in anything, because if they did that, they had to probably go to Georgetown to get an education. Today, Essequibo students are topping the whole Caribbean. In both, and they're not doing that in one way, it's done also at both the primary and secondary level. And that largely has to do with the investment that the government is putting in education.
The health sector has also benefited from immense sums of money, he added.
I remember when I was campaigning in the 1992 elections, I used to come with a newspaper, Stabrook News, and point out an article that was there to show the public hospital in Georgetown, a young child, 5 years old, a young girl child, had her hand eaten off above the elbow by a rat in the public hospital. Today we are doing bypass surgery at the public hospital in Georgetown. We have a cancer ward in the public hospital. We have a burns ward. We now provide, together with the private sector, some private doctors, we provide services for the kidney, the dialysis type of service that we provide for our people. And we have come an enormous way from where we were in the past.
The improvements in the housing sector were also noted.
Anybody know Essequibo in those times, and I used to come here quite often doing political work, will know that Essequibo has really transformed, completely transformed from what it was, and now having new housing schemes and all of that. On your road, now we're arguing about having wider roads.
18 housing scheme.
Yes, and we are now having wider roads, and comrades arguing for that. I remember used to take hours from Adventure to come to Hampton Port to Comrade Bashir's house or to Ali Bakshi's house. And remember it used to be called the Abortion Road, right in this very Essequibo. And that is why at the last election I said Essequibo is still probably Cinderella, but not Cinderella the beggar. It is Cinderella the princess at this point in time.
Ghana is set to achieve the goal set by the United Nations Children's Fund UNICEF of universal birth registration by 2015. The General Register Office has launched an intensive campaign. It has decentralized its services to specifically cater to the needs of residents living in the interior location. Bedside registration is also done in several public hospitals. There are now 200 registration centers operating in the 10 regions. Citizens are urged to ensure that all births are registered. In an effort to respond more promptly to citizens, the Home Affairs Ministry has launched an online crime reporting system which allows citizens who possess or have access to cell phones, computers, or other devices with internet connections to report criminal activities. Citizens can get instant access to security personnel on BlackBerry Messenger via 280-4E429. Reports of corruption can also be made on www.ipaidthebribe.com. These reports can be made anonymously.
Guyana as a tourist destination continues to receive international acclaim. The reputable National Geographic Traveler has named Destination Guyana as one of the must-see places in 2014. The renowned magazine said Guyana is the best-kept secret in South America with stunning natural wonders. This year, increased focus will be placed on enhancing the standards within the industry, focusing on tourism products and services, multi-destination itinerary planning, events management, ecotourism, and sustainable principles and guidelines, as well as a grading scheme which will be developed for the industry.
The Government Information Agency GINA evolved from the Government Information Service and was formally launched in 2002. GINA is executing its mandate of keeping Guyanese, both locally and in the diaspora, informed of government's programs and policies pertinent to development. Cognizant of the right of Guyanese to information, GINA, through its dedicated staff, has endeavored to deliver its mandate to the best of its ability. Guyanese have every right to be informed on policies, programs, and projects which impact on their lives. The Government Information Service was in operation long before the PPPC administration took office and discharged the same mandate. GINA is a unit of the Office of the President, and its mandate is similar to other organizations around the world where governments have a fixed body to disseminate their information. GINA will endeavor to remain steadfast to its mandate and takes pride in continuing to serve the people of Guyana. GINA, information for nation building.
President Ramattar highlights the importance of sportsmen and women as role models. Ghana hosts several Caribbean Premier League cricket matches at the National Stadium, and as such, the role of players as role models for today's youth must not be underestimated, says the head of state.
That's an important role that you can play for us in the Caribbean because, we have all kinds of social problems in a new type of world that we have, and that is important. Not only the game itself, but the society, the role that you play and the contribution that you can make to the development of our societies.
President Ramattar was among top local officials attending a welcoming cocktail for the Guyana Amazon Warriors, the Antigua Hawksbills and the Jamaica Tallawahs cricket teams at the Palm Court Restaurant and Bar on July 14.
On behalf of the government and the people of Guyana, to welcome you here, to hope that you have a good time and to enjoy the cricket. Thank you very much for your attention.
On behalf of President Ramattar, who was also visiting the Prime Minister Samuel Hines attended a cocktail to celebrate France's National Independence Day. Also known as Bastille Day, in honor of the storming of a historical fort, the Prime Minister said that July 14, 1789 was significant in many ways.
Marking, as it did, the beginning of the French Revolution, which has stood as a symbol for liberty, fraternity, equality, and the fight against oppression for all French citizens. Guyana's relations with France can indeed be inspired and guided by those principles, as we both strive to create just and inclusive societies. Our friendly relations, which were formally established on June 22, 1967, have grown and deepened over the years. As a testament, we have been collaborating on many fronts at the multilateral level in the UN and the EU, and have sought to draw closer to French Guyana to take advantage of our similar interests. To this end, we hope that the process to facilitate the full functioning of the honorary consul, which has been chosen by our government, will be concluded soon.
Guyana, he said, is appreciative of the various forms of assistance given by France over the years to push the local developmental process.
France's write-off of 100% of Guyana's debt to the country, support for the University of Guyana, military exchanges and police cooperation programs, and various undertakings in the cultural field have all redounded to the benefit of the people of Guyana. Guyana also acknowledges France's strong support and partnership in relation to the United Nations RED program. We look forward to France's continued cooperation with other partners and non-governmental stakeholders to achieve our shared objectives under the RED Plus partnership, while supporting sustainable livelihoods, providing biodiversity benefits, and promoting sustainable development. The government of Guyana also welcomes the operational program Amazonia, from which Guyana for the first time will benefit. Such ventures will truly allow for deepening of relations between Guyana and France, and by extension, the region.
The French ambassador described Bastille Day as the start of a movement which reached beyond his country's national borders.
Which marked particularly this region of Americas in a world already globalized. That is why, as the actual world where the globalization spreads and where the challenges that people and nations are facing are maybe bigger than ever, the motto liberty, equality, and fraternity received an echo. Our relation with Guyana can be inspired by those principles which call for cooperation and solidarity. This solidarity is imposed on us because we belong to the same regional space, the Guyana Shield, and because the human exchanges between our two countries are important. The Guyanese population living in French Guiana is relatively large, so we are pleased that your government decided to create an honorary consulate to have relation with this community and with the French authorities who are open for facilitating the consul's missions.
Ghana and France are moving towards increasing their levels of cooperation in several sectors such as security, financing, information technology, and cultural exchanges.
Parents with school-aged children will achieve a measure of relief with the provision of $10,000 per school year for all school children in the public schools. This from the 2014 budget is in addition to the school uniform voucher, which will continue to be distributed.
The importance of road linkages in Guyana's hinterland to propel economic growth and improve access to services is fully recognized. To this end, Budget 2014 has allocated $1 billion to rehabilitate critical interior roads, including the Linden to Lethem Road.
The 2014 national budget has allocated $32.3 billion for education as government continues to emphasize a sector which has undergone significant transformation in response to the emerging needs of society. A message from the Government Information Agency.
The Government Information Agency, GINA, evolved from the Government Information Service and was formally launched in 2002. GINA is executing its mandate of keeping Guyanese, both locally and in the diaspora, informed of government's programs and policies pertinent to development. Cognizant of the right of Guyanese to information, GINA, through its dedicated staff, has endeavored to deliver its mandate to the best of its ability. Guyanese have every right to be informed on policies, programs, and projects which impact on their lives. The Government Information Service was in operation long before the PPPC administration took office and discharged the same mandate. GINA is a unit of the Office of the President, and its mandate is similar to other organizations around the world where governments have a fixed body to disseminate their information. GINA will endeavor to remain steadfast to its mandate and takes pride in continuing to serve the people of Guyana. GINA, information for nation building.
The decision of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, known as the BRICS group of nations, to initiate a new multilateral development bank is one that Guyana and other South American and Latin American nations will be able to derive immense benefits from.
This was the main focus of the high-level meeting, which concluded in Brazil July 16 and was attended by President Ramantar and Finance Minister Dr. Ashney Singh. Ghana's president has indicated government's full support for the initiative as a viable alternative to mostly Western-based lending institutions such as the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank.
I wish to thank the President, the Xi Jinping, for the announcement that he made and the contribution that will be made in the economy of Latin America and the Caribbean countries. And much more, and just as important, is not only developing these immediate relationships, but helping us with the important human capital so necessary for sustained and growing development. Therefore, the 6,000 scholarships just mentioned that will be made available to Latin America and the Caribbean is indeed extremely important to build our continent's human capital to carry out the big task that we have in integrating our infrastructure and also in more and more integrating our economy.
The BRICS group also set up a $100 billion currency reserves pool to help countries forestall short-term liquidity pressures. The long-awaited bank is the first major achievement of the BRICS countries since they got together in 2009 to press for a bigger say in the global financial order created by mostly Western powers after World War II. The BRICS sought coordinated action following an exodus of capital from emerging markets last year, triggered by the scaling back of U.S. monetary stimulus packages. The new bank reflects the growing influence of the BRICS, which accounts for almost half the world's population and about a fifth of the global economic output. The bank will start with a subscribed capital of some $50 billion, divided equally amongst its 5 founders, with an initial total of $10 billion in cash put in over 7 years and some $40 billion in guarantees.
President Ramaphosa held meetings with leaders of India, China during his recent visit to Brazil.
President Ramaphosa has described as positive meetings held between himself and the leaders of India, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and China's President Xi Jinping in neighboring Brazil.
I thought they were very productive. We reviewed our economic relation and other relations, and we expressed satisfaction with the way it is going and the relations are going. And we also agreed to intensify our economic and social and other types of cultural relations between Guyana and the two countries. So I thought they were very, very positive, very good meetings. And I think Guyana will benefit from the outcome.
China and Guyana also have strong ties in the field of infrastructure, mining, forestry, banking, construction, and shipping. Both leaders have committed to build on these and other emerging sectors. The leaders of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa held closed-door talks in Brazil with counterparts from Argentina, Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, Venezuela, Guyana, and other Latin American nations. The gathering follows a BRICS-only summit in the seaside city of Fortaleza, Brazil, where the 5 nations agreed to create the $50 billion Bank for Infrastructure Projects and a $100 billion crisis reserve fund.